come once again to discuss things.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid2. Joining me today is Steve Baxi. Hello, Steve Baxi.
Hey Ian, hi everybody. How are you guys doing?
We're all good, I'm sure. Except for one listener.
Yeah, except that one guy. You know who he is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Rough patch. You'll get through it, I'm sure.
Look at it this way. At least you've got that cool thing in the back of your shelf.
Yeah. See, there's that like one guy who's like, yeah, thanks guys. In any case, so here we are with the follow up to the last video Steve and I did, which hasn't been posted as of yet, so I don't know how people are going to respond to it. The last time we talked about like our head canon, and it got a little verged on fan fiction-y too, of like what we think these characters should be introduced and stuff, and that's fine. So, but that was for the DC universe, and so this time we're gonna go ahead and do the Marvel universe.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun because Marvel has been a universe since the beginning, so this will be a little bit more natural than what we did with DC.
Yeah, and like it's weird because it's one of those things where it's been a universe since the beginning, but at certain times you kind of feel like, yeah, that really feels like it should be its own thing, right?
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that definitely with X-Men.
Yeah, X-Men is really the go-to, because it feels like, shouldn't someone be doing something about that?
Yeah. And to be fair, Marvel now has dealt with some of that, so we'll definitely have to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. But let's go ahead and get started. So, last time with the DC video, I said that they both essentially start, like, historically grounded characters aside, they both really do start, in my mind, in World War II, with super soldier programs. And as I said last time, because DC never had like the astounding success that was Captain America, technology never got pushed quite as far, because there was not as big an arms race in that area. But now that you had Captain America and Marvel Universe, you have technology getting pushed farther because people are pushing the biological technology. When they're not able to get that to work, they're pushing the nuts and bolts kind of technology. So that's in my mind where it all starts, is World War II.
Yeah, I agree. World War II seems to be the best place to do it because you have to do Captain America. There was talk when the first Avenger film was coming out that, we're going to do World War II because it seems like a natural decision. In my mind, it seemed ridiculous to do a Captain America movie that didn't involve World War II.
I mean, you can't. It's not the same thing. You can't do, with Iron Man, you can update his origin depending on what war he's in. You know, you can do Vietnam or any of the Middle Eastern conflicts or whatever.
Exactly.
But Captain America, it has to be World War II.
Exactly. It's all part of the culture and the way we perceive that war that functions into who that character is. So you can't get rid of it. Yeah,
it's a very essential part. And when they brought him back into the comics and stuff, doing the whole Frozen in Ice thing was a really good touch, because it totally works. And so no matter how far into the future we get, we can always have Captain America come back just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
In the canon. One thing that I guess I've picked up on with Marvel, and like I've said on the show before, I'm not a huge Marvel guy. They're just not my thing, by and large, but I mean, I like them plenty. There's like this idea of a sliding timeline in the Marvel universe, in the comics, as far as I know. Like, no matter how long ago it happened in real time, Gwen Stacy's death was always like 4 to 5 years ago, or whatever like that. It's like, it's no matter what year it happens to be, events slide along the timeline, so that this was kind of in the past recently. Which is an interesting idea. I don't know how well that works, especially since Marvel does have a tendency to kind of date themselves by putting in a lot more real-world stuff than I think DC does.
Yeah, it's difficult because from that perspective, it's constantly a sliding timeline. There are certain events that are fixed, like this was exactly 5 years ago, no matter what. And then you kind of get to this point where, well, how do you move forward then? You can't ever get Spider-Man past the mirror. You can't ever get him to the point where he has kids because he always has to be in a very particular point in his life, and all of his events have to be at a very particular time to each other. The way that doesn't work with Captain America or Iron Man or the Hulk or any of those other characters.
The
only character that really works with is Thor, because there's a big deal made out of the fact that he's a god, and so the decades that pass for us are like seconds to him, so none of it really matters that much.
Yeah. The only thing that, I guess what I was talking about more with the current events thing is, if I'm remembering correctly, the 9/11 issue, that is still canon, right? Where Spider-Man is at the Twin Towers.
See, I don't know if it's canon anymore, because the way the issue is written and the way the issue is done, there are certain characters that are there that could not be there.
Okay.
So if it's in canon, it contradicts a lot of things, but since when has that been a problem in comics?
Right. I mean, geez. No, it's just stuff like that. I know they put recently, a much less dramatic example was during the first run Obama had to the White House.
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert ran, and obviously Obama got elected, but Stephen Colbert's campaign was a huge part of the Marvel universe. You could see ads for him running as a really strong third-party candidate, and they pulled a Al Gore thing for why Obama won and not Stephen Colbert in that thing, and that's canon, but that was 8 years ago almost. And so if Spider-Man was in high school or college, well, maybe he's like Steve and is planning to go to college forever. Sorry, cheap shot.
No, it's almost what I'm planning at this point.
Yeah, maybe Spider-Man's in a really intensive program, but at a certain point it's God, this kid's been in school forever. It's just one of those things, the sliding timeline it seems like a good idea, but, and to be fair, I suppose it's worked better than DC's, 4 reboots?
Infinite Crisis, 0 Hour, New 52, Convergence, and I feel like there's one more other thing. Does the Superboy Prime Punch count as its own reboot?
Nah, because that was a soft thing. They just kind of...
Well, so was New 52, though.
Yeah, well, no, New 52 is very much a new universe in a lot of ways. Only
the
a couple
universe has old universe stuff in canon, though, and that's the confusing part.
Yeah, it's weird. Let's not get into it.
Yeah, that's an entire video.
It's a new enough universe, though. That's the main thing, I guess.
Okay, yeah, so that way it's probably 4.
Yeah, 4 major reboots, and then little things here and there. And I mean, that worked and didn't work in a number of ways. Kind of, you can go almost book by book and say this is where it worked, this is where it didn't. But with Marvel, they haven't ever rebooted, and I think they're actually discussing doing that at some point. Because it is getting to the point where it's wow, there's a lot of stuff in these comics that we just are having a really hard time wrestling with anymore.
What's interesting about that, though, is if you talk to retailers, if you go to comic book stores and you ask them what it was like around the time Marvel Now and New 52 were announced, before the New 52 actually happened, Marvel told all of their distributors that they are about to reboot. And they had a planned catalog of what's going to happen, and there was an entire legitimate reboot coming out. But then DC did their thing, so they staved it off and built a 4-year spurt of Marvel Now that led up to its current reboot. But as we get close to that, because at the time of this recording, it's not the Marvel reboot hasn't happened yet. But the way they're talking about it now, and there's actually a couple books out that are set post Secret Wars, and the canon's all still there.
weird.
Very strange. If you read Avengers Rage of Ultron, it feels very much like it's a story set in current continuity, but apparently the argument is that it's actually set 8 months or something like that after Secret Wars.
I don't know, it's one of those weird things, like, I remember being in the comic shop when, the owner got the letter from DC announcing that they're going to do a reboot, and he's like, yeah, they're rebooting all their titles. I'm like, why? DC's been kicking ass lately.
Yeah.
Because, God, right before New 52, things were amazing in DC Comics.
Oh, yeah, they totally were. They were on fire.
Right? But, like, so it's just a weird thing to work with this sliding timeline. So I guess the point of this video would be to take, the major events of that, because there's some stuff that you just wouldn't want to lose anyway.
Yeah, essentially what's the necessary and sufficient conditions to be a Marvel universe?
Yeah, there's a smarter way of putting it. Yeah, just like the major events, the Gwen Stacy death, the characters' origins, the Infinity War or whatever, just the Skrull invasion and stuff, the greatest hits of the Marvel universe, putting it all into a reasonable and cohesive order, but still like allowing room for expansion that doesn't limit the writers by trying to appease old things in continuity.
See Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes for references.
Yes, exactly.
Because that show was incredible.
Yeah, I really do like that show. It's just the art style I found so distracting.
It's really annoying, but you have to get used to it at a point because the stories do get really good.
Yeah, I agree. That's pretty much
same with Spectacular Spider-Man.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's go ahead and really get into it then. So we established Captain America, and obviously you do the whole Red Skull thing and Frozen in Ice. And I'm gonna say right out the gate though, there are no other superhero active things except for Wolverine at that point in time.
Not even the Invaders?
I don't know who they are.
In the comics, Cap's part of a superhero team that's assembled from other countries. So you got Namor there, you got Bucky there, you've got the original Human Torch and his sidekick. And they fight the Nazi equivalent of Superman.
Yeah. I don't want that. No, I think I like the idea of Captain America being the only real superhero. Wolverine's out in the world because he's just that old, but he hasn't really stepped into the public eye yet. He's still like fighting in the wars and stuff, but kind of in the background, not letting anyone see what's going on.
Well, my case for that would just be the Invaders are the reason the Black Widow program exists.
Okay.
Because in Brubaker's run, you get the origin of the Winter Soldier, and what the idea is that Russia's got no superheroes whatsoever, so when they try to steal technology every now and then, Cap stops them because they don't want to perpetuate war. But he says it's easy for you because you've got all these super soldiers battling around. All Russia's got is it's a winter. So when they create the Winter Soldier and the Black Widows, it's, like he phrases it, their sick joke on the rest of the world for never having a superhero in the war.
See, I think you could get that without other superheroes being around for besides Cap, because I think Cap's enough of that on his own.
What about Captain Britain, though? Captain Britain's a pretty huge character.
I don't know enough about him, to be fair. And that's a problem I guess we're going to have is this is actually a really good video for me to be on, but it's also kind of an awkward video because I have a fairly good working knowledge of the Marvel Universe, but it's nowhere near as comprehensive as my DC knowledge because I don't read Marvel that much. So I know enough about it to talk with people about it, but there are things here and there where I just don't know enough. But I think that kind of works here because we're going, you don't really need that. And I guess my argument for why you only need Captain America is because the movie, he's the only super soldier, and he's still just as big a deal, it seems.
Well,
you have other soldiers that are working with him and stuff.
Yeah, but importantly, they do have setup and stuff for the Human Torch, and the Invaders were supposed to be part of that universe to begin with, but their footage and stuff got cut out.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't think you need that. I think Cap can be a big enough drive for Russia. Because that's what I was saying, is just him existing, not only on the Nazi side of things, but then it forces Russia to try to put their own arms race into effect, and that's why you get, Bucky kidnapped or whatever. And so I think Cap's the only superhero that's like public and out while he's around before he gets frozen.
That's fair. I guess part of what I like about having the Invaders with Captain America also is that it solidifies that Cap isn't the first superhero, and it also justifies why there are so many after he dies, because everyone had the same idea at the same time.
Okay.
And it's kind of a neat parallel to World War I, except in the Second World War, where everyone literally had the same idea at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, I don't know, I like the idea of Cap kind of inspiring the age of the superhero. So for X number of years, since Marvel seems to always be in the modern day, you have people constantly trying to get superpowers, trying to replicate the super soldier serum, and you have Oscorp and stuff doing all these experiments and stuff, trying to pour over just any kind of research notes that were left behind in the heyday of Captain America. And you have, Soviets and Nazis all trying to fiddle around with the same stuff, and no one's really succeeding at it until you get to the modern day somehow.
And I guess to your point, it would make more sense why there's no way to replicate the super soldier serum, because there was only one hero at that time. You don't have any other cases to study.
Yeah, that's kind of what works about it in my mind too. So you'd have your heroes that are kind of in an era, or your old heroes from Marvel. They'd show up and do their thing, but by and large you really wouldn't have the superhero explosion until just before Cap shows back up. I want Cap to show back up maybe a year or two into the point where we're starting to see all these heroes show up again.
Yeah, I like to have a world that's already established with superheroes before Captain America shows up.
Shows back
up. I mean, like a world that doesn't really need Captain America. They just happen to find him.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a pretty big motivating factor, is 70s stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm trying to think, are there any heroes that are particularly tied to an era in Marvel?
Magneto, because he was in a concentration camp.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty major part of his character that's hard to lose. And I think X-Men Evolution did it best, where he's been artificially making himself younger for decades.
Okay.
But it only works so much, so he still gets older, just at a much slower rate.
Yeah, for that I'd always figured that mutants just aged slower. They're already mutants. Why not?
Yeah, that's fair. If you haven't seen X-Men Evolution, there's an amazing episode with Magneto and Captain America and Wolverine, where you find out their history with the war together, and the super soldier serum was actually killing Cap, and that's why he was put on ice.
Yeah, I remember that show a little bit here and there. It had its moments. If I remember correctly, after X-Men Origins came out, X-Men Origins Wolverine rather, when it looked like Fox might not be able to keep hold of the X-Men license on their own, kind of like what just happened with the Sony Spider-Man thing. And that was just before they were starting production on Cap's movie. I remember hearing a rumor that they were in talks with Fox to have Wolverine and Cap be in the same movie real quickly, just, a brief cameo with Hugh Jackman or whatever.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
And to have one of the scenes be Cap and Jackman and everybody liberating Magneto's concentration camp.
That would be so cool.
That would be amazing.
I would have loved to see that, especially because the relationship Cap and Wolverine have is pretty complicated in that Wolverine hates Captain America's guts when they work together, but in private he idolizes them.
Interesting.
And that would be fun to have as an on-screen dynamic, especially if you got Chris Evans and Hugh Jackman in a room together.
Oh my god, it would never happen, but it'd be amazing.
Can't they just get together in a fan thing and do it? Because that'd be so cool.
Yeah. So that's something I'd like to see is in the World War II stuff is Wolverine and Cap working together, because Earth's Mightiest Heroes had that where you see Wolverine in the background.
Yeah, voiced by Steve Blum.
Yeah, there's still that clip in Earth's Mightiest Heroes where, like, Cap's breaking into the castle in World War II, and, like, a drawbridge comes down and just crushes one of the henchmen, and then Bucky's sitting there, is like, he makes some little stupid joke, and I just always wanted to, like, take that clip and, like, have Cap go, "A man is dead, Bucky, and you're making puns! Quit!"
The fun thing about Bucky is that he's that quirky sidekick, and then Brubaker reinvents him to be the world's most covert assassin.
Yeah.
Because essentially he exists so people underestimate him and he can slit their throats. That's literally what he does.
Nice. So yeah, like, another really funny thing I heard in a forum one time is someone, complaining about Batman being a terrible person for taking a child and putting him out on the streets to fight crime. And someone goes, "How come Batman's the only one that gets this crap? Captain America took a child to fucking war."
Exactly, and he volunteered him.
Anyway, so yeah, I have no problem with Bucky being like a kid that kind of like Steve. Let's say Steve's Captain America for about a year, and then he does kind of the recruitment thing for a while too, along with the covert missions. And I'd like for Bucky to actually be a child, unlike in the Marvel Universe movie, or the MCU. I'd like Bucky to be a child trying to do what we saw Steve doing in First Avenger, which is to volunteer for the army, but just continually getting rejected. I'd like to see Cap see that happen and tell them to put the kid in anyway. There'd be a lot of moral problems there, but I don't care. It'd be cool.
Especially if you keep Bucky's backstory the way it is in the comics, where he just lives on an army base his entire life after his dad and mom and family basically die out. And the only person he knows is his sister, and they're estranged because she lives in some private school.
Interesting.
He's got a really kind of messed up backstory, and Brubaker invents all of that just to make him so much cooler than Captain America. And it worked, but still, it's kind of creepy.
Yeah. So yeah, are there any other heroes or characters that are kind of stuck in a certain era, like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
We
had to show up.
Invaders characters. Talk about Magneto and Wolverine. I don't think so. The only other one that I love having tied to an era is Bruce Banner being very specifically atomic testing Cold War character. Because I think I think you can't get better than that. I don't like what the movies did in that they try to replicate the super soldier serum. I mean, they kind of had to because you had to keep moving the timeline forward, like we keep saying. But the idea that he's an atomic scientist, and the repercussions of that, and capitalizing on the fear and paranoia that creates, and making that the embodiment of the Hulk, I think all that just works so much better.
Yeah, my favorite's still the pilot for the Incredible Hulk series,
that's great.
Where the power, like the whole thing is he's researching strength, and where strength, like, that superhuman strength that seems to come from people, just where that possibly could come from. So I don't think you need it tied specifically to that era. You can just have the same thing that they did in that show, where it's just, it comes out of nowhere, and he discovers, the connection between gamma rays and heightened levels of, or gamma rays and mutated DNA.
Yeah, you don't need it. I just kind of prefer it.
Yeah, I really like. I like that idea, though, and I think you could kind of reconcile that with the super soldier thing, is that he maybe gets funding to do the experiments from people trying to replicate the super soldier thing.
Like maybe he agrees to be an atomic scientist as long as they give him money to research what he wants to do, which is the heightened strength thing, and the mixture of two is what creates the Hulk.
And, like, you could have, an old film reel that's like, worth millions of dollars that gets passed around of the original super soldier experiment, where we see, Steve Rogers become Captain America. And, like, the movie was kind of vague about it, and that's what I liked, is, there's obviously some kind of injection, but the chamber, like, it lit up and stuff. So obviously, and there's a lot of a lot of electricity and power put into it. So there's obviously something else going on besides just a serum, and that I liked about it.
Yeah, they create the whole Vita rays thing, and they never explain what that's supposed to do. It's just key to the process, and I think the ambiguity did work for it.
Yeah, and especially if you don't know what it's supposed to be, they don't even have a name for it. They just know it's something. And then Bruce Banner could come along and I have this research about gamma rays about heightened gamma rays for days where people are able to do these incredible things. That could be really interesting, and that's what gets him the funding to do that research before he has the accident. And that's the other thing. As much as I did like the Incredible Hulk pilot, I don't like that he does it to himself. And it's an accident only in the fact that it's like a silly mistake. I want Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk to be completely accidental. No control over the situation whatsoever. That's a big thing for me with the Hulk.
Depends on how you utilize that too. Because the problem with Hulk stories for a long period of time has been that he perpetually blames himself for it, and he's constantly running away from the problem.
Okay.
And that always bugged me up until Mark Waid did what the Avengers film did, which is forget the issue, try to get control of it, and then just try to join back in with society and help people. And if it's an accident, the whole self-deprecation thing doesn't work as much.
Yeah.
But you could always chalk that up to his backstory of being abused by his parents.
Well, like, something I guess that if you're not going to have it be 100% an accident, something I would like is if it's, how do I put this? If it's kind of like subconsciously he does it. Like, unintentionally he causes the problem. That would be interesting to me as well. If, like, he forgets to hit a certain button or something, and that's what causes the accident. That would be fine.
Yeah, and you could tie that into the separate personalities of, like, the Savage Hulk and the Grey Hulk that's already kind of building in his mind before the radiation brings it out.
Yeah, that's... Bill, I think, had the best explanation of gamma rays in the Marvel Universe, which is that they're not just magic. They certainly do whatever the comic writers want them to do, but they're also connected to your personality. So if you have a hidden element of your personality, gamma rays completely embody that and bring it out of you. And that's something that I'd like to keep a really big part of the Hulk mythos. Yeah, and those kind of strange, hard to quantify properties of gamma radiation have been a thing in Marvel Comics for a while, where every time someone gets hit with gamma rays, they just become something that's in them subconsciously. Yeah. And that works to an extent. I love the stuff they do with Doc Samson with that, where he's essentially becomes Samson of myth. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so, yeah, Hulk, I don't necessarily need it to be tied to that era, but I do like the idea that that's kind of where some of the research is coming from. Like, research that was done in the nuclear age is part of where he's getting his information for that, maybe. Yeah. To kind of connect it more closely to what you were talking about. Yeah, that makes sense. I do also really like that Tony Stark's family is tied to Captain America very directly. Like, Cap knew Tony's father in the movies. And you weren't necessarily able to hold that continuity straight forever, but always having someone in the Stark family be related to Cap's experimentation I like a lot. Because it paves the way for their relationship in the comics and the way the movies show it, where Tony Stark's dad and Tony Stark are essentially the same people under different circumstances, and that's sort of the birth of the disagreement that they have between Captain America and Iron Man later down the line. And part of the reason that Cap hates Tony is not just because of his separate philosophy, but because he's not his father. And that just compounds the issue for Tony, who never wants to be his father, but turns into him anyway. Yeah, it is a problem, though, with trying to connect Tony's father to Captain America, because, that era of people that are the children of people who could have conceivably been alive and useful in World War II is fast approaching the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they certainly exist still, but those are people that are getting up into their 50s and 60s at this point.
Yeah.
So it's just...
So you need to slide that and say, well, it wasn't Tony's father, it was his grandfather, it wasn't his grandfather, it was his great-grandfather, but then the connection between Tony and Steve dies out too, and that's sort of a problem.
Yeah, you need to... It's a really hard thing to finagle, and I'm not sure how else to do it other than freezing Tony Stark, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, no, you're right. Unless you kind of be consistent with the whole bleeding edge armor thing and just make it so his body is artificially able to stay younger.
I don't like that either.
Yeah, we're too much on giving him more power.
No, it's not just that. I really like the idea that Tony Stark is very human underneath the armor. I like that the only thing special about Tony Stark is his mind. Otherwise, he's kind of a, pasty white guy. He's a little lab geek kind of guy that, I don't like the idea of Tony Stark even being able to really run a mile without, passing out by the end of it. I really like the idea of Tony Stark being just the quintessential nerd in a lot of ways that just refuses to act like that. I imagine young Tony Stark with the biggest glasses you could ever possibly get, like Professor Farnsworth glasses.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, because it's just, and so that makes the whole Playboy, Party Boy thing just this act that he does. It's still not really him, but he's put so much of his life into not being who he is that when he finally starts to come around and become Iron Man, it's a really big shift for him, and he becomes the person that he's always been.
Well, the thing I'll disagree with is I don't want the Playboy stuff to in any way be an act, because the interesting thing about Iron Man, people call him a ripoff of Batman, but the difference is that Bruce Wayne pretends to be Tony Stark, and Tony Stark is just that way. And that's why it's irresponsible for him to be a superhero, and that's why he's constantly making mistakes and fixing them. That he's not the type of guy you would ever trust to be a superhero, because everything he does is a mistake. He's Spider-Man, but 20 years older.
Okay, see, when I say act, I don't mean like it's the way Bruce Wayne does it. I mean he doesn't truly get any enjoyment out of it, but that's just the way he wants. That's the way he wants to be. That's how he feels like he should be.
I don't know. I still want some of that to be inherent. That it's always kind of inherently selfish for him, and he has to learn to overcome that.
Okay. And that's fair enough. I don't know, the more you say that, the more I disagree with what I'm saying, but there's something in what I said that I still agree with. I'm just trying to figure out exactly how to put it out there. Cause,
the way you're describing it is essentially Ultimate Tony Stark, and Ultimate Tony Stark's really, really well done. And that character is sort of that way where he's the ultimate nerd growing up, and he becomes a playboy out of suppressing that nerdness.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's
eventually it comes out anyway when he becomes Iron Man.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at, I guess.
Yeah, and Ultimate Iron Man's good. It's just that's a concept that was never developed past what Orson Scott Card had originally, and the one you get in the other Ultimate Comics does not line up with that.
Okay. Yeah, I like the idea of repressing that side of him, like feeling ashamed that he's smart.
Yeah, okay.
That I like, and so he does the Playboy stuff because it's fun and everything. But that's not at the heart who he's squandering his potential kind of a character.
I can see that, yeah.
Instead of doing all the inventions and stuff that his father would have wanted him to in high school, he's or by the time he gets into college and stuff, he's doing, he's showing up drunk to tests in college and still getting an A-.
Yeah.
Drunk or hungover to a test in college and he's still getting an A-, no effort put into it, but he's just that smart. That's kind of the approach I'd go for with Tony Stark.
Yeah,
he's trying to drown that perception of himself.
Have you seen Iron Man Armored Adventures?
No.
Okay, it's not a great show. It's kind of dumb in concept, but that's actually what they do with Tony, where he's in high school and he's unbelievably smart. He doesn't need to buy any textbooks. He doesn't need to study ever, and he can have the worst day in his life and still know every answer to every question the teachers ask him. And it gets to a point where he's ashamed of that. And he gets
Okay.
really embarrassed by that because other kids hate him for it.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of stuff I really like. That is a great concept for Tony Stark to me.
Yeah, I can see that. And then his
so
relationship with
that's
Obadiah Stane and stuff becomes more interesting, and same with Justin Hammer, because they're the guys that Tony never wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. Like, and that's the thing is you get the whole Playboy thing, and that's where he's getting positive feedback. That's when people like him, is when he's, you know, he's using his father's money to rent out a hotel for his high school prom, everyone to come to after the dance kind of thing.
Right.
Like he's rented out the hotel, given room keys out to everybody that asks for one, and just doing like crazy things with his wealth to make people like him. Because he's so ashamed of being, you know, smart.
And that leading to problems and mistakes would still be a very inherent Tony Stark thing.
Yeah, that's kind of where my headspace is with Tony Stark, and it takes him getting kidnapped to really be the wake up signal, where he has to rely on his smarts, where his money isn't worth anything. And kind of like the. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, and the only other issue I would have with that is that character would grow up to be Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man, and I would not want that in the comics. Because it's not that I don't like Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man. I think he's great. I love Iron Man 3. I think it's one of the best superhero films ever made. But Tony in the comics, and part of what makes Tony really interesting in the comics, is that he's business first. And that all of his problems are corporate espionage related. It's always about losing his company or fixing his company or stockholders or people buying out stock or competition or people trying to usurp his position or market share. It's always that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And the Iron Man thing is a big deal in that it's a financial drain, and the whole Iron Man's got a public image to protect and everything like that. That's something that I would think needs to happen after he gets older and starts running the business in the way you're describing it. Because it's not that I don't like Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man. It's just that that's Robert Downey Jr. in an Iron Man suit, not Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark.
Gotcha. See, it is a weird thing, because I don't think that you cannot... blah, 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 that didn't make sense. I don't think that they have to be mutually exclusive. I think that he can, just like the test stuff in school, I think he can be just as brilliant at the business stuff without even kind of trying.
Yeah.
Like, I want... That's a really weird perception of Tony Stark. I want him to be kind of, you know, the Bat God in a lot of ways that we get in later Batman comics, where he's perfect at everything without even trying, it seems.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the perception I have of Tony Stark, where he's just one of those guys who's, you know, you want to make the argument that the world's handed to him on a silver platter, but at the same time, he's faced with this huge problem that he had nothing to do with, and he's able to figure it out on his own. He's the kind of person that would feel bad if he had to ask for help.
Yeah, that can make sense. That'd be interesting, and I guess I have a weird skewed perspective on right now, just because I'm working my way through so many Iron Man comics at once.
Gotcha. No, and I get the feeling too, and like I said, that's why I think this is an interesting approach for a video, because I'm not into the whole Marvel comic thing that much.
Right.
Other characters I like and stuff. All right, so Tony Stark, in my mind, he has to get kidnapped, and that's what wakes him up is realizing that, you know, he can't call his dad, whether or not his dad's alive, I don't care. He can't call his dad. He has no way to buy his way out of this situation. He can't charm his way out of the situation. He has to rely only on his smarts to get out of the kidnapping thing, and that's when you get, you know, the Mark 1 Iron Man armor.
Right. No, that makes sense. I can go with that. And that's kind of what they do in Iron Man Season 1.
Yeah.
Which is not a great graphic novel, but it definitely catches in on that idea. It just doesn't go far enough with it, like you're describing.
Yeah, and I think that's a concept that has a lot of wheels. Okay, cool. So, who's next after Iron Man? Because we got Hulk, we got Iron Man. Those are the two big important.
Yeah, we got Hulk, we got Iron Man, we got Captain America. I'm actually looking at my shelf of long comics right now just to check. I think maybe the next place to go is talk about Thor.
Sure.
Because Thor is so independent of the universe that it's kind of hard to see where he fits in and why he joins Midgard in the first place.
It is one of those weird things, and as much as I don't like it's not that I don't like the movie. As disappointing at times as I find the Thor movie,
they're really mediocre.
Yeah, pretty much. I do like that, it's because he's kind of an arrogant, I'm a god, I know everything, and you get the humbling experience of Earth. I do like that origin. I don't want the Donald Blake thing. I think that's become really, really trite and uninteresting in my mind. I don't need the Donald Blake thing anymore.
And to be fair, the Donald Blake thing never had a story that warranted it being there. Every great run on Thor is when he doesn't have a person tying him down. JMS's doesn't have that, past like the first couple issues. Walt Simonson doesn't have that. Jason Aaron doesn't have that. So it's not a big thing if we lose it.
Yeah, and I feel like we've just, in a lot of ways, we've moved past the secret identity for a lot of these characters. Like, it just used to be a thing where your character had to have a secret identity. And some of the characters, obviously Peter Parker, Batman, Superman, they all have to have a secret identity, but as you move on, there are characters that just don't need it. And I think that Thor is obviously one of them.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting to see how Thor's canon is so independent of Marvel's sliding timeline, because he's never there for any monumental event through history, and he's never tied to any of those things. So his character arc and stuff is kind of DC-like in that way.
For me, Thor, like, one of the approaches that I haven't enjoyed about the Marvel Cinematic Universe to Thor, and I guess it's worked, maybe, we'll see once this stuff with Thanos and Guardians and the next Thor movie and all that stuff kind of comes together, but I haven't liked the idea that they've been pitching with the C.S. Lewis quote, advanced technology is magic until you understand how it works, basically. Or science, magic is just science we don't understand yet. That's the exact quote, there we go. I haven't liked that approach that they've had in the universe because they haven't grounded the technology enough. It's still way too magic-y, but they're saying it's not magic. So I'd really like to go just one way or the other. I'm tired of this kind of fuzzy middle ground we have with it. I'd either like it to be legit magic, completely incomprehensible to humans, or straight hard science. And I'd lean toward magic.
And to be fair, this is a bigger issue as well. Like, it's not as minor as it might sound to some people. Because Captain Logan and I actually had an argument about this yesterday when we were talking about Green Lantern rings and whether they're magic or technology. And the big question is, when you live in a universe with both Thor, Doctor Strange, but then also Reed Richards and Iron Man, what's the difference between magic and technology, really?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, what was Cap saying? Are Green Lantern rings magic or technology?
Cap was saying that Green Lantern rings are magic, even if the emotional spectrum thing is based in science for the universe, and that it's not really sci-fi. And I don't agree with that.
No, it's not, because they're just the emotional spectrum is a force that's being tapped into with the rings. So it's like having a gravity gun or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said to him. But again, that's another story. But it's still kind of a question of what's Doctor Strange tapping into versus what Tony Stark's tapping into. Yeah,
because and for me, Thor, it's just easier to make it magic. It's more interesting to make it magic. I really hope that the DC Cinematic Universe does take a note of what's not really, in my mind at least, working with the Thor side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and just goes ahead and makes Wonder Woman full magic, doesn't even try to ground it in science or anything like that.
I mean, considering the direction they're taking, I really doubt they won't at least try to ground it.
I hope not. In any case, though, I really just want to keep Thor just completely magical. It's just easier.
Yeah, and I mean, the stuff like with Walt Simonson and JMS is all really magic and mythology heavy, and that'd be tough to lose if you wanted to make it science-based.
Yeah, I haven't liked the approach that they've gone through for with Thor, where it's science, but we don't explain it. Well, then, just make it magic then.
Yeah, and the Thor stuff has just been really underwhelming so far. They haven't really done much with that character yet. Age of Ultron's really the biggest thing with that character right now, and even then, the major part of the story for him is this hammer, not actually him.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, I would prefer to keep Thor magical, keep all the stories of myth that are conceivable to keep in I suppose a PG-13 comic book universe. Because doesn't Loki have like a horse for a son or something?
Yeah, in mythology, I think he does.
Just like it makes a really awkward Thanksgiving. That's all we're gonna say about that. So yeah, I don't know what else to really say about Thor. Is there any like major events with Thor that you want to talk about? Because for me, I just make it magic. That's it.
Again, there are no real major events for Thor in the comics that are dependent on other characters or anything continuity-wise. The big thing might be that Tony Stark makes a Thor clone in Civil War. And that's really kind of inconsequential, because all it really amounts to is Thor destroying it and then Tony and him having an argument. So,
okay.
Yeah, there's not much there.
Okay. Who's another big player to go on to? Do we want to just go through the Avengers roster before we start hitting the random names?
Do you want to touch on Spider-Man now or later?
Let's go ahead and do Spider-Man now.
Spider-Man's kind of, crazy at this point.
The face of the Marvel Universe.
Well, he was. And then Iron Man
really?
came
out. Okay. Okay, that's an interesting perspective.
Because they haven't been selling Spider-Man as the face of their universe in a pretty long time.
Yeah, but still, for me, it's just like Superman. It's just, when I think Marvel, I think Spider-Man.
Well, I mean, that's fair, but I mean, it's really hard to deny that people think more of Iron Man and Batman now than they do of Superman and Spider-Man with the respective companies. Just general masses.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm just saying, in my mind. But yeah, Spider-Man obviously comes on the scene later than everyone else, because I do like the idea of Spider-Man starting in high school, junior or senior year of high school. And yeah, just gets bit by a radioactive spider. I don't know if I want it to stay radioactive or do the Raimi thing of biologically engineered.
I think either one works fine. It's not like there's any greater consequence to one or the other.
Yeah. Do you want the web shooters or biological web?
Web shooters all the way. Biological webbing never worked for me. They tried to do it in the comics several times. Never works. Yeah.
I don't know. As long as we get rid of the plot contrivance of, I'm out of web.
Yeah, he needs to have some sort of way to keep that nearly infinite.
Yeah, it drives me crazy when he's always running out of web. It's just trite at this point, because it happened every episode of the television show. I'm like, isn't this the character that's supposed to learn from his mistakes?
But he keeps making mistakes, and that's why I never liked Spider-Man very much.
Fair enough. He's the character that's supposed to learn from his mistakes, but he's a teenager, so he never pays enough attention.
Yes, exactly. And if he's got this big thing of everything is about responsibility and everything wrong with the world is my responsibility, then he should just not be Spider-Man if his mind is that skewed.
Right. Spider-Man's really fun. I like the I don't want anything special. Like I've so resisted the spy backstory for his parents in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and I know that comes from the comics, and I don't want the special. I don't like it when you try to make the hero that special before he becomes the superhero. I like the normal guy, and Peter Parker's, in my mind, a real big part of that. I like the idea it's just a random kid, and this happens to him, and he has to deal with that.
One thing I do like about the spy thing, and I agree, I wouldn't keep it, but I think it should still be there just as a potential thought, is that when kids don't have their parents, they often have that fantasy of who they are, and there's always that play on that kids think that their parents, if they never met them, are spies or something really cool like that. So knowing about S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff, I think it'd be kind of interesting if Spider-Man asked Nick Fury about that, and there were actually agents named Parker, but they just have no relation to him.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. I just like the idea of it being completely random occurrence. Same thing with Bruce Wayne's parents getting killed. No, there's no conspiracy behind it or anything. It just happened.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole point of it. That's the whole symbol of it, is that it's random acts of violence that creates the characters that they are.
Yeah, and it's just a random accident that creates Spider-Man, and it's a kid dealing with that. I like Oz. I kind of like the approach a little bit that they're going with Oscorp in that universe, though, where it's just this really shady company that pretty much exists to try to keep Norman Osborn alive. And to contrast that with Stark Industries, Stark Industries is all hardware. Oscorp is all bio technology. It's all technology derived from, genetic engineering and stuff.
Yeah.
And I really like that idea. Like, as problematic as the Electro thing was, I kind of like the idea that Oscorp was running the city's power grid on electric eels or something like that.
Yeah, that's always been something goofy about the comics, and I'm always okay with that, because Spider-Man's villains are so...
Zoo? It's a zoo?
Yeah, it's a zoo. It's always biotechnology-based, and I don't really see a problem with that. And I think that's why it'd be fun to have Tony be sort of a mentor to Spider-Man like he is in the comics, because he's solving the problem with the opposite technology.
Yeah, exactly. See, those two could just get together and just talk about all the problems that they created that they're now solving.
Exactly. There's a great one-shot by Matt Fraction where they do basically that.
Oh, that's too funny. So yeah, with Spider-Man, I really do want it to be a random occurrence, and like I was saying with the Oscorp thing, I like the approach by and large that we're getting with Oscorp in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. So that kind of approach we could keep. Just a firm that exists to keep Norman Osborn alive, and he is the Green Goblin, not Harry. That's important.
Well, I like that Harry becomes the new Goblin eventually, because that's a pretty big story in the comics.
Yeah, eventually, but Norman Osborn is Green Goblin. End of story.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I like that idea. And then the Gwen Stacy thing is the other part to tackle. I just don't know. I like the approach to Amazing Spider-Man, but I don't really want to copy that into the comics, and I don't know too much about the Gwen Stacy relationship, but I don't know, it's just... I'm trying to think of a unique way to approach it, though.
See, that's tough, because when you get a story as classic as that, it's like, well, why would you ever change anything about the Killing Joke?
Gotcha.
And that's part of the problem, in my mind, of rebooting Spider-Man, having him being a teenager again, is if you're going to retell the story of Gwen Stacy's death, all you're going to do is make it worse. Because it's a masterpiece.
Ooh.
It doesn't matter who you get to write it. It will never be as good as the one that was originally told.
Just because you didn't know it was happening. Like, even if the prose and the literary quality of it was better, you'll never be able to get past the surprise.
Yeah, there is an emotional, historical reaction to that story that you just can't translate again.
Yeah, I mean, it killed the Silver Age.
Exactly. It's a big
when Stacy died, the Silver Age died with her.
Yeah, there are hundreds upon hundreds of stories of people that actually tear up when they read the sound effect of snap. And Peter Parker's trying to figure out why she's not waking up. It's a really sad moment.
Yeah, I think it was captured well in Amazing Spider-Man, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it'd be really hard to replicate in comics. But if you're gonna reboot the universe, it's kind of hard not to put it back in, right?
I mean, if I was rebooting the universe, I would just republish the story with new coloring or something.
Like, just redo the art or something?
Yeah, I would get rid of any kind of overt historical references, maybe update some of the dialogue to make them talk about something that's more contemporary, but that's it.
Okay, yeah, I think that'd be a good way to go about it then.
Yeah, because that's really tough. That's like we said with Killing Joke, redoing that story or remaking Dark Knight Returns or something like that.
Yeah, because it is art in the sense of just a moment in time captured.
Exactly.
A moment in time and an emotion captured and displayed. So it's one of those things, it's one of the arts of comic book moments. So to put it back, to do it again would be really difficult. But it is something that's necessary. And that has to happen, I think.
Yeah, because Gwen Stacy is the girl that Peter always should have ended up with, but then she ended up dying because of his mistakes and his choices, and it's a really important thing to the character, so you can't even lose it. If you're going to do Gwen Stacy, you have to kill her at some point.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how far into his career do you think it should happen? Because I'm thinking, like, the end of his first anniversary as Spider-Man is when she dies, or something like that.
That's basically how it is in my mind. I don't know how many years into the comics it happened, because the way Stan Lee up to Jerry Conway were doing it, it's all just one story for hundreds of issues.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know how many years passed for them, but in my mind it's always been about a year.
Yeah. And did Gwen know who Spider-Man was in the original comic? I can't remember.
I think she found out eventually.
Okay.
She found out a little bit before she died, I think, but it's been a long time since I read that stuff. I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably something I'd have is that she knows who Spider-Man is. I like that. And I'd like for her to have given the information to Norman right before she dies or something. So Norman finds out by having Spider-Man kill Gwen Stacy, who Spider-Man is.
Well, the thing in the comic is that he knows, and that's why he goes after Gwen.
Gotcha. But I don't know, I'd like to...
Because there's even a story, and Dan and I were talking about this yesterday, where the scene from the first movie where it's like Thanksgiving dinner and Norman Osborn's there.
Yeah.
That's there in the comics because Norman figured out who Peter Parker is.
Okay.
I don't know how he did it,
but
he did, so...
Yeah, something about me wants it to be from Gwen, though.
Kind of
like
Daredevil Born Again style.
Yeah, I don't know why, just something about it works for me in that way.
Yeah, I can see that. Maybe because it's a digital age, if you had to reboot it a little bit, you might say that she wrote it down somewhere and Norman found out. Because they're all friends with Harry, so...
Yeah, that could work.
I don't know. I'd have to look back in the comics and see how it was originally done before we can fix it. To say.
Well, there's no fixing it. It's perfect. Don't fix it. But
the death is perfect. After that, there's things around it.
Fair enough. Okay, so what else was Spider-Man? Big moments.
The marriage.
I probably wouldn't have the marriage happen for a while. Like, as much as, One More Day is horrible and awful, and I know why people hate it and everything, I do kind of agree with the premise that Spider-Man probably shouldn't be married and having kids and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm perfectly comfortable with him just staying a kind of a college kid for a long time.
I'll give you the argument that I think I have and most people have, which is that Spider-Man started as a coming-of-age story, and if he never comes of age, it doesn't work.
Yeah, that is the thing. So I guess if we are going to do the marriage and stuff and have him truly come of age, then it has to happen quite a while in the comic books.
Yeah, and I mean, you can keep Spider-Man the same kind of person, just have him married in, 25 as opposed to 15.
Yeah.
I like what JMS did with him, where he's essentially the same guy, but now he's grown up and he's a teacher, and he's dealing with kids that dealt with the same issues he did as a kid, but with different circumstances because the nature of the world has changed, and he's still trying to help people, and he's still got the awkward thing going, and he's still got a different type of confidence as Spider-Man. It just happens that he's married. And it makes sense that he's an Avenger now, because he's 10 years older and he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that, and I'd probably go with something like that then, where it's been a while. It's a while. It's like 10 years into his career before that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, and the idea of them being a newlywed and not understanding how that works, particularly in modern day New York City, I think can make for some interesting stories.
Yeah, Spider-Man's one of those characters where I wouldn't want him to be doing that until we get good amount into this new universe, though.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't start him out married or anything like that. I would have him go through the classic Spider-Man arc for quite a while. Though he'd be actually learning things from his mistakes and not making them again.
Yes, I agree.
Like the requirement for everyone that wants to write on the Spider-Man book is you have to Grant Morrison and read every issue of that character that's been coming out since the rebooted universe before you're allowed to write any Spider-Man title.
I don't understand how they're able to make that consistently work for Daredevil for decades, but they can't do it with Spider-Man.
That's just something like, you got to do the Grant Morrison thing, where if you want to write this like tentpole character, then you have to read everything.
Yeah.
End of story, or you don't get the job.
Yeah, and I mean, Bendis did that for X-Men. There's no excuse why you wouldn't do that for Spider-Man.
Yeah, alright, so anything else with Spider-Man, or you want to move on?
I think I'm good. Again, not the biggest Spider-Man fan, so I'm sure there were people that disagree with us, and they'll be totally fine, because I've got no grounds to talk about that character, really.
Like, I mean, I like Spider-Man, but no, he's not my character either.
Yeah, I like Ultimate Spider-Man, but just barely.
Oh, okay.
Or anything. I just don't like Spider-Man as a concept.
Alright, so then what else do we have?
Well, we mentioned Daredevil. Do you want to go there?
Oh, no, let's stay in actual Marvel Universe for a minute.
Daredevil's the best thing about the Marvel Universe.
Just because the television show came out, I'm sure.
No, I mean in the comics. Daredevil was always my favorite thing with Marvel.
Oh, wow, okay. Everyone, Daredevil retrospective, whenever Ghost Rider retrospective finishes up.
I have the final video in my editing queue. I just have not had a chance to work on it.
Okay. So yeah, Daredevil is one of those characters where I really do like the approach we've had in the television show. I'd probably with Daredevil make the Kingpin thing not as connected. I really liked Punisher Max Kingpin, and I'd like to keep Kingpin's origin kind of connected to the Punisher the way that did.
That's fair.
You know, pretty much just Punisher Max is this universe's version of the Punisher, except instead of the Vietnam stuff, it's, you know, Iraq War. That's it. That's the only change I'm making.
Yeah, that's fair. That can work.
And that's how we get Kingpin's origin too, because I love that version of Kingpin.
Yeah, and it's cool that they parallel and their origins are not connected. And I think that definitely works. And in the comics, it's always a business thing with Fisk and Daredevil. The Daredevil just disrupts his operation, and it gets unbelievably irritating that it kind of breaks at a point. And that's why Born Again happened. So yeah, I can see the Punisher Max origin being the catalyst for all that. That still works with me.
Yeah, and so Daredevil, I don't really want him to be connected to Kingpin's origin, but I'd like him to show up maybe after Kingpin's been set up for a while, and, you know, Frank's out of the picture for one reason or another because he's dealing with other problems.
Yeah.
Like Punisher Max had Frank locked up in prison for a while. Maybe extend the period of time that he's away in prison. That's when Daredevil starts to become active.
And in the Brubaker one, they do a really cool thing where Daredevil gets paid to stay in prison and kill the prisoners.
Interesting.
So you could potentially do that for a little while.
Wait, Daredevil or Punisher?
In Punisher, yeah. There's a part in the Brubaker Daredevil run where you cut to Punisher and he's in jail and he's getting paid to stay there and kill the prisoners.
Okay, I thought you said that Daredevil was in prison. Like, what?
Well, he was in prison.
Well, no, but like Daredevil killing prisoners in prison does not sound like Daredevil to me.
No, you're right. It's confusing because it's the Daredevil writer with Daredevil in prison writing Punisher's side story.
Gotcha. For Daredevil, like, I'd like to see some more stuff that kind of fits in with the name too. Like, I'd like people to be saying things about Daredevil, like, oh, well, he's nothing like that Spider-Man guy. And so we'd see, you know, Spider-Man jump between buildings, and Daredevil would do it in a really public way to prove that he's just as big a deal as Spider-Man. Stuff like that I'd find interesting, if you kind of bring him into public a little bit too. Because otherwise, like, you walk this thin line with Daredevil where you don't want to make him Spider-Man and you don't want to make him the Punisher. He has to be that middle ground between those two characters, And so you need a little bit of the public showiness, but you also need to mix that with the grittiness, too.
Yeah, and in the comics, Daredevil loves being Daredevil, so he's really enthusiastic about it. Like, in the Frank Miller run, you'd often open books where he's just running across bridges and waving to people as he jumps around in buildings. And Mark Waid does that a little bit as well. So, yeah, I could totally see that. He has the same thing as Spider-Man, where he's a little bit more confident in costume, but his life is so terrible that he often doesn't get the chance to enjoy it.
Yeah. That's just one of those things. I'd like somehow to work in the Daredevil, like the classic, tightrope walker above the cityscape thing. I'd like that to work into the Daredevil thing somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not like I've been watching and getting into Zorro a lot lately, and so I think you could borrow a couple of the things Zorro does and work that into Daredevil a little bit. Like, you have Fisk who tries to portray this glamorous public image in a lot of ways, and it could be interesting for Daredevil to kind of embarrass him from time to time in public.
Yeah,
like that, like kind of like a nightclub thing where Daredevil just walks in and say beats the shit out of all of his henchmen in front of a huge party that's there just for Fisk. And there's say an ice sculpture of Fisk, and Daredevil just makes it look silly. Like something like that I think could work really well and add into the showiness of the character.
Yeah, and all of that in mind, I think you'd still need to keep the tone that the TV show captures, which is the Brian Michael Bendis tone of, it's a perpetually dark world. It's just there's moments of levity with that type of character.
Yeah, I agree. I think there needs to still be that dark and gloominess, but that's what makes the silly or the moments where he's showing off so impressive.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, someone's got a gun pointed at you and you're making fun of them. That
exactly.
kind of stuff. That's really Daredevil in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And so then Punisher, like I said, just all the Punisher Max stuff. Just instead of Vietnam, it's Iraq War. That's really all you need in my mind.
Yeah, Punisher Max, the stuff Garth Ennis did, like Welcome Back Frank's a great story. Yeah, the Punisher's a character that's had some pretty good runs all the way through for decades and decades, so you could just keep that the way it is.
Yeah, it's just there needs to be more of a thing of why the heroes whose big thing is no killing, why no one ever gets a hold of Frank about that. And that's one awkward thing that, since we're talking about the universe as the whole, that's the big awkward thing that I think we have to address with Punisher.
I think with Punisher, it's always small time. Like, he's never going around killing supervillains. He's going around killing the henchmen that work for the supervillains. So the heroes don't have time to deal with it necessarily?
I don't really like that explanation, though. That's a little weak to me.
That's fair. I mean, it's tough because Punisher is a lot like Daredevil in that he's just inherently a much darker and grittier character, so you don't see him fight supervillains very often. And that's really the only explanation that he doesn't run into superheroes very often, because he's not in their territory.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody in Marvel's in New York, so you think one person would bump into Punisher is the weird part.
That's fair.
So, I think that's kind of where we could get, instead of Punisher being sent to jail because the cops catch him, maybe one of the superheroes catches him, and hands him over to the authorities to be put in jail.
And I think Daredevil should be that character, because they've got a very fascinating relationship of, Punisher thinks justice is punishment and Daredevil does not, and they've always had conversations about that.
Like, okay, so you could do maybe like a Daredevil Punisher team up, and at the end Daredevil, hits Frank in the back of the head so he gets arrested.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. And I'd still be curious as to why none of the other, major heroes, your Spider-Mans or your Iron Mans don't ever do anything about Frank, but it is one of those weird things.
Yeah. It would be great if Punisher was played as more covert than he usually is. Like, he always just goes into rooms and starts shooting people. If he was more of a sniper-type character, I could buy it more.
That'd help, but part of it is you have to know it's him, is part of his whole thing, so...
That's true.
You need kind of like that flaming skull or whatever left at every crime scene with Punisher.
Yeah. And I really like the Thomas Jane movie approach to it. So maybe if he's just very meticulous about it, then that's why he never gets caught.
Yeah, that could be interesting too. And if Iron Man or whatever were to show up and try to take him, he's got an out.
Exactly.
Like he's got an escape route or something that, no one's going to be able to follow him down because he's got all this special ops training and stuff.
Yeah, but you'd also have to be careful with that, because the Greg Rucka Punisher series, not Greg Rucka, I think there was another one back when Dark Reign happened, where Punisher, in the opening issue, was getting chased by the Sentry, who was essentially a god for no good reason, and he actually manages to outrun him, and it was done pretty preposterous.
Yeah, see, that's not the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like, if we're in this universe and there are superheroes around, I'd like to think that there's some kind of special force in the military that's trained to deal with them too, and so I'd like him to use some of those skills against some of the superheroes.
I'm just saying, like, you have to put it within some bounds, right? Like, he can't be outrunning characters like the Sentry because he's got a backup plan.
No, of course. I'm just saying, like, you need some kind of special forces training that is superhero-centric. So, like, he's got some kind of way to actually, some kind of logical out with every hero.
Yeah, he's been tactically trained to be as efficient as Captain America, so he can take out people like Iron Man. Or at least manage to escape them. And there was precedent for that in the comics. Like, there's always Gamma Bays and special S.H.I.E.L.D. Black Ops agents and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that's I think a big need for Punishers. Like, you need to provide some explanation for why no one is doing anything about him. So, like, obviously you could do a little bit of that with he lives off the grid. He has, like, no tech besides guns. That's the Punisher's only real technology. Otherwise, he's like living like a homeless person. You'll never be able to find him in New York. But he's still somewhere out there. So that's what kind of adds to the fear of the Punisher.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, who else then?
See, all the other characters in the Marvel Universe is kind of surround the ones that we've talked about now, kind of like the same way the Justice League did with the big 3 or 4 we talked about with DC.
Yeah, we just forgot Aquaman, so let's real quick Submariner, and then X-Men's the only other big ones we have to talk about.
Okay. This is why I like the Invaders idea, because Submariner was part of that team, and it's one of the only times he's worked with the Surface Dwellers, and part of the reason that he's so disenfranchised with them is because of the way they treated people during the war and their way of cleaning up the mess.
Interesting. I don't really know what approach to go with Submariner, because he's just... Atlantis is always such a hard thing to work into anything, because unlike with Thor, I do kind of want it to be technology-based, and not magical.
I can see that. Have you read any of Peter David's Aquaman? Where the whole idea of Atlantis is just a process of a combined magic and evolution.
Oh, okay.
It's actually done pretty well. But with Submariner, I wouldn't want that origin. I would like if they were born in Atlantis, and it's part of the universe, and it just exists that way.
Yeah.
And recently, having read a bit in a comic, it seems like Submariner would be perfect to write as Karl Marx with superpowers. Because that's kind of how he is in the 70s and 80s stuff, where he doesn't just hate the surface world because of how they treat the ocean. He hates them because they think they value the wrong things, and their system of capitalism only serves to perpetuate all the problems he has with them. And so he's very much of just a really arrogant critic of capitalism through and through, and I think that's kind of cool.
Okay, so he's Alex, but with water powers and little wings on his feet.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Hi, Alex.
I don't have a problem with that, though. I think that's actually a really cool idea. I love Iron Man and Submariner teaming up, because it's the premier Marvel capitalist versus the premier Marvel communist. It's awesome.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. Yes, I love that idea. It's just fitting Atlantis into the wider universe is the only problem I think that occurs, because it's just like, it's such an awkward thing to work in this, underwater city-state that's a big part of geopolitics. Because it's inherently interesting, it's just hard to work in how it happens.
Yeah, it's tough, because even in the comics, even with the Submariner stuff, Atlantis never matters, Submariner matters, and there's very few stories. I mean, there's one giant crossover, but there's very few stories where Atlantis is even like an important entity outside of Submariner breaking things. And he discovered Captain America, if I'm not mistaken, but that's it.
Oh, okay, I like that. That's a nice detail.
Yeah, he was fighting somebody, and the Avengers show up, and he just lifts a giant rock in the Atlantic Ocean. It turns out Captain America was in it.
Oh, well, I don't like that part, but...
I mean, yeah, you can make it more complicated, but still.
Yeah, I'd like it to be kind of, important.
Yeah.
Oh, we can talk about Black Panther, too.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, Submariners, I have no pitch for Submariner, to be honest. I want to remove the wings. Fuck the wings. That's stupid.
I think that's cool. He's this giant, tough guy that hates everyone, but he's got pixie feet.
I don't care. It's still stupid because they're underwater.
That's why it's funny. It's so preposterous.
Yeah, and I don't like it. It's like, what?
That's fair. That's kind of like the wings on Captain America's helmet.
Yeah, I like it. I like what they did with that in the movies, where it's just painted on at this point because it's from a shitty costume that someone designed.
I like Captain America's costume when John Cassaday draws it because it makes it look really epic with the wings.
No, I mean in the movie where it's like someone just threw together like a really crappy costume.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's got
yeah.
wings on the head. Yeah.
The USO costume that he had.
Yeah, and so, like, I like that's how they did the classic costume. That was pretty funny, where it just looks like some crappy costume design that someone threw together. That was cute.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, yeah, with Submariner, that's the only part of my pitch, is just get fucking rid of the goddamn wings. It's really stupid.
Fair enough, yeah.
Okay, so, X-Men. Because we've touched on it a little bit. Obviously, Wolverine's kicking around for a while. Magneto shows up in World War II. I like that our pitch with Captain America and Wolverine liberating Magneto's concentration camp. I really like what they've been doing with the 60s stuff with Days of Future Past and First Class.
Yeah, I agree. I like the mutant evolution was sped up because of the atomic age.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
And I love Kevin Bacon in First Class's speech about that. I think that's a really cool idea to keep going with it.
Yeah, and I guess you could have maybe a higher mutant population in areas where you had higher nuclear testing. So, there are a lot of South Pacific / Asian mutants, and there are a lot of New Mexican and that area mutants, so you get a lot of diversity within the mutant community as well. That'd be really interesting. But it would
also make sense why there were so many just mutant groups that are so consolidated in the U.S. because of the atomic testing.
Yeah, totally. And so you'd still have your outliers, people who were naturally early blooming mutants like Wolverine, Magneto, Professor X, Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Those would all be good ways to work that in.
Yeah, I don't really have a pitch for X-Men. Outside of just, I like the ways the movie did it. I like the way Grant Morrison and Joss Whedon wrote them, and I prefer them to be their own universe in most cases.
No, I want them to still be part of the universe because it's such an interesting thing to deal with, but I do want it to be something that's constantly being dealt with.
The problem with that is also you need progress. You can't have the sliding timeline necessarily. Things have to get better progressively.
Or worse.
But the point is the status quo just has to change progressively for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you need a story arc. I don't read a lot of X-Men, so I don't know if they've done this, but you need a massive story arc where there is a mutant rights bill, and there's discussion of that.
Totally. Excuse me, sorry, I'm having trouble talking.
Yeah, you need that, and I like what we've done post AVX, where we acknowledge the mutants are part of the Marvel Universe, and we put them on the Avengers, and we mix it up, so it's not just the X-Men. there's mutants in all aspects of Marvel life now.
Yeah.
And I love that Captain America deals with the fact that he's kind of speciesist against the mutants, and he never thought about it before.
Oh, really? What'd they do with that?
Essentially, he's never had to deal with mutants outside of Wolverine, and Wolverine he didn't even really know was a mutant. So he's got this weird racism against them, because they're a bunch of teenagers with angst that get powers and it's dangerous. And he doesn't even really know the thought himself. He doesn't even understand why he doesn't like them. He just doesn't like them.
Yeah, okay.
And he's trying to figure out what that is and still try to fight with them and understand what his racism is about. And that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I agree, because I don't like Cap being super perfect, because he's a really good guy, but he's still got issues. I mean, he's from the 40s. He's going to have, a little bit of a thing where it's like, well, wait. There was a black guy in my hospital room? What? Just, like, there'd be some things where he's like, whoa, this is different, and I'm not used to it.
Yeah, he knows the ideal, but like you said, he's not used to certain things. He wouldn't be used to the way people dress now, or kind of just the way a normal family evolves. Like, wait, people are getting divorced? What's that about?
Yeah, like, just with women especially, I'd find it really interesting for Cap to have to deal with, a feminized world in a lot of ways, because that's not something that he'd constantly be opening doors for women, and, every so often you'd get that one girl goes, I don't need you to do that. And that'd just be something that he'd have a real hard time reacting to.
Yeah.
And not because he, wants to keep women down or whatever, it's just not something that you'd be used to from that era of history.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a matter of making the assimilation into modern culture a bit more, subtle.
Apparent. Yeah. But with the mutants, I need them to be around, because it's such a weird thing where you have the Fantastic Four, who everybody loves, and the mutants, who everybody hates. It makes no sense, and so it needs to be addressed in a bigger way.
Well, to be fair, the Fantastic Four were scientifically created, and they're very government regulated and monitored, and they're just used as explorers. They don't run around unregulated.
Yeah, I get that, but it's just it's like, okay, you have a bunch of people who are mutated and you love them, and then you have a bunch of people who are mutated completely without any choice in the matter and you hate them. So we need to, it's obviously a racism thing, there's no logic to it, but we need to explore that regardless.
Yeah, and again, post-AVX I think has done a lot to further that, and I would kind of just start the universe with that.
Where mutants really first start to come out in public, like you have a really good job of Xavier operating from the 60s, kind of mind-wiping people of any kind of mutant, like doing a little Men in Black thing where he's mind-wiping people's memories of encounters with mutants in public spaces. And then you have something that's maybe like televised, where a mutant is kind of outed, and there's nothing that he can do to stop it. Professor X is unconscious or knocked out at the time, and by the time it's gotten around the world, it's gone viral, and it's too late for him to do anything about it. That actually worked really well, as if the mutants really come out once virality becomes a thing.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I also really like the way DC Future Past did it with Nixon and Magneto and the football stadium thing. I mean, you could update that to fit what you're saying with, there's a viral element to it. But also that part of what Magneto's thing is that we should not be hiding. And he's using every available source to him to make mutant community known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like that side of it too. So I think it'd be interesting if it was just something that, it'd been a shadow war with Magneto constantly trying to, and getting more and more violent every time he did it, trying to expose mutants to the world and show humanity that they exist. And Professor X trying to ease people into it and not really have it be the shocking thing, because he doesn't want his people persecuted, and Magneto wanting to kind of start a war.
Yeah, I agree.
That could be interesting.
I've got less universe ideas and more just story ideas for where the X-Men go with this. But it's what we're mentioning of, as long as they're integrated to the world and we're kind of calling out the questions that no one asks about the mutants, like the legislations and like the way they come out into the world and what Xavier and Magneto do, that parallel more so with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and just making some of that more direct.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, as you get the civil rights movement happening alongside or you have the mutants movement happening alongside the civil rights movement and stuff.
What would be really interesting is if we even like retcon and say a prominent figure in the civil rights movement. It doesn't have to be someone huge, but just someone in the movement was a mutant.
Yeah, like Rosa Parks or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be cool. Like, as much fun as the line was in Days of Future Past, where he's like, he was one of ours, Charles. What the fuck was JFK's mutant power? I really want to know.
I'm really curious now, too.
Because it's really awkward to just let us know that, and not let us know exactly what it was that he did.
Well, this might kill the joke, but since Kennedy was a really sickly guy most of his life, maybe it was just his body was incapable of adapting to the mutation, and that's all he means.
No, it'd be more fun if it was something like he had seduction powers.
Okay, I can go with that.
Alright, so that mutants, I need them to be integrated, but let's go ahead and go on to Black Panther. So I really want Wakanda to be like this almost Star Trek level country throughout the entire history of the Marvel Universe. Like with the mutant things we're talking about, you know, and I was thinking about like you could do a really interesting history of Wakanda and have it evolve and have you know, African American history tied to it in a lot of interesting ways, like any escaped slave is given an asylum in Wakanda. That'd be really interesting to me in the slavery era of American history.
Yeah, and how Wakanda might be a major player in the Cold War non-aligned movement, and it's one of the only countries to actually be non-aligned instead of just saying it.
Yeah, and it's like it's actually helping other countries not have to choose sides between America and the Soviet Union. That'd be fascinating. Another thing that I'd like is if the civil rights movement talks a lot about Wakanda, and you have the Black Panther movement actually named after the Wakanda Black Panther, because that'd be a fun little reverse of reality.
That would be really interesting, yeah.
Like I was thinking about the Black Panther movie. How fun would it be if we get, you know, the news montage that we get in so many of these things, and we get like a brief glimpse of what's his name? Huey? No, not Huey Lewis. That's the awful singer. Huey, whatever his name is, Huey the Black Panther, that Huey Freeman and Boondocks is named after. If we get like him meeting with the Black Panther of that time, and that's where the name of the movement comes from, is in reverence to the Wakanda Black Panther. I'd like them to be this really interesting third side throughout the history of the 20th century and even further back.
Yeah, I agree. Give them a very ancient mythology, even saying that there's parts of Wakandan history that are as old as like ancient Rome and Greece.
Oh no, even older. I want the first, like, Wakanda's always had this thing of we saw it very briefly in the series, is that Wakanda does not believe in invading a foreign country. I'd like that to go back all the way to Egypt. Like, that's when they decided that was the rule, is we're never going to invade a foreign country, is when they, like, maybe tried to start a war with Egypt. And
yeah, okay, that'd be interesting.
Something happened.
I also really like the rumor that's going around about Civil War, where the reason T'Challa comes out into the world is because the Winter Soldier assassinated his father.
Ooh.
I think that's a really cool idea.
It is, but I liked that Claw assassinated his father.
That's fair. That's Claw's biggest story in the comics.
Yeah, that's the only reason I don't like it. Like, I'm already kind of a little about Claw being, you know, being made Ultron's bitch. Like, that part was a little, okay, it's good stuff. I'm glad they're setting it up, but I really wish that he could have been a little more badass than that.
I mean, I don't know. Claw is always kind of the bitch of the or the bitch of the Black Panther's rogue, so I can see it still. Maybe if Claw's like the Winter Soldier supplier or contractor or something.
Or maybe he's the one that hired him or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah, exactly. Something along those lines.
Yeah, that'd be fine. It's just one of those things where I really do want. I just Wakanda's such a cool idea for this just country that's actually able to be stable despite everything that's going on around it throughout the history of the world, because they just have kind of like that Star Trek level utopia. Just, we have all this technology, why would we waste it? Like that's where you get, we never invade another country, because like they invade Egypt, they set up shop there, and that's where we get, the pyramids and all this other stuff. And then they decide, yeah, this isn't working. The people don't really understand us. This was too early for us, and we shouldn't have invaded in the first place. So then they leave, and they take all the technology with them, and Egypt's still able to remain a huge power for centuries, but that after Wakanda exits before recorded history is when they immediately start to decline after that point.
Yeah, I can see that.
It'd be really weird, but it'd be cool. Okay, yeah, just Wakanda would be this really interesting little section of the Marvel Universe was just always telling people the right thing to do and no one ever wants to listen.
Yeah.
like Churchill has to cite Wakanda in the in his speeches about why we should be declaring war with Germany. Is like, Wakanda's the first nation to put economic sanctions on Germany in World War II, stuff like that.
Yeah, I can see that. And Wakanda publicly criticizes Chamberlain's Peace in Our Time speech and stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. That'd be fantastic. And like, so the U.S. asks for assistance in the war, and Wakanda's like, well, we don't invade other countries. We don't do any military operations other than defense. But here's a shield.
I love how you put that one. Here's a shield. Or as Ultron says it, here's a frisbee. Give it to your robotic dog.
Oh no, just here you go. It's like, really, this is it? This should be enough.
And it was, but still.
Right, exactly. It's just like, it's a more of a symbolic thing. Is they believe that they should teach people to defend themselves, and I think that's always been one of the interesting things about Captain America is his main offensive weapon is a defensive weapon. That's always so weird.
Yeah, no, I love that about the character. I could definitely see that going in, and part of what I love about those parallels is that Black Panther is every bit as interesting, and you can do every bit of the same stories you get with Captain America with that character. And we just don't get that in the comics right now.
Yeah, I've bought all the Reginald Hudlin trades, and I gotta sit down and start reading them soon.
Let me know what you think of that stuff, because what little of it I've read is really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, fucking the origin story was amazing, so...
Yeah, there we
go. That makes me think of the one other thing that I want to talk about, and that is S.H.I.E.L.D. The foundation of S.H.I.E.L.D. I really like what the movies did, where it started after Steve died. They decided to start founding, an independent worldwide security agency, and they name it in reverence of Captain America.
Yeah, I like that much too. And I also like that it gets too large and out of hand.
Yeah, and that's where Hydra kind of worms its way into it. I did like that part of it. I maybe wouldn't go for Hydra created the fear in the world thing. I don't know whether or not... I don't know how much of that I'd keep.
Well, importantly, Hydra didn't create the fear. They just waited until the world was the way... it was susceptible to the kind of fear that they're talking about. Because they make a big deal out of it in that movie, where they had to wait until people would voluntarily give up their freedom for security, and that's when Hydra enters the picture.
Yeah,
I like that much about it.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know how much... To be fair, you've seen the movie 100 million times. To me, the implication I always got was that they'd been funding some of these conflicts. They'd been funding both sides, as Tony Stark put it in the first Iron Man movie. So, like, that's the impression I got, and I don't know how much of that part of it I'd keep. Like, probably a little bit, but not... I don't know if I'd go as far as I think Winter Soldier did with it.
Yeah, maybe that's fair. To be fair, in the comics also, I like that Hydra is its own independent thing outside of S.H.I.E.L.D., and S.H.I.E.L.D. just sucks on its own. Because one of the things about the comics that makes S.H.I.E.L.D. really infuriating, every time S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up in a comic, all they ever do is make the hero's life harder, for no good reason. That's always their purpose. And if they can do that without Hydra, it makes it all the more interesting in my mind. Because you get that great stuff where Tony Stark is best friends with Nick Fury, but then Nick Fury's like, I'm going to buy out your company from underneath your nose because I'm a jerk like that. And that's just what they do, and that's just the kind of system they play, and it's a really good parallel for how the United States Secret Service runs.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it'd be interesting to use S.H.I.E.L.D. as this, like, because it's got to be both a shadow organization and really, really publicly known. So I think you could probably tie a lot of fun conspiracy theories to S.H.I.E.L.D., like S.H.I.E.L.D. hired Stanley Kubrick to fake the moon landing kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly like the CIA, where everyone knows what it is, but no one knows what they do. Yeah,
that'd be fun. Only they work for the UN instead of just the US.
Yeah, I agree. Completely being US-based has always been a problem for me with the MCU, but I'm glad that that's changing.
Oh, yeah, me too. Alright, but I think that's everything, though.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other big character in the universe that we forgot to mention.
Yeah, just, Thanos. And that, I think you can pretty much just leave him alone. He's still obsessed with death and all that stuff.
There's not a lot to him aside from that, I think. He's a big cosmic entity. He collects the Infinity Gems, and Infinity War happens. I don't think there's too much that needs to change with that.
Yeah, probably keep the MCU thing of Tony Stark creating Ultron just because it makes more sense than Hank Pym, in my mind.
Wait until you read Age of Ultron, because I thought the exact same thing, and Age of Ultron changed my mind completely.
Well, no, I just mean, like, I think Manos made the point, it's like, back in the day, science kind of just was all encapsulating. There wasn't just one... Like, people didn't understand that you could be into one thing of science, but not another. So, like, Hank Pym, yeah, shrinking, that's kind of like robots. So it kind of makes more sense in that aspect for Tony Stark to create Ultron. But I'm cool with it being a combined effort between Tony and Hank Pym.
And that's what they did in Earth's Mightiest Heroes, if I'm not mistaken.
Hank had just created Ultron, and then, and Tony had helped with it to one extent or another. I think he maybe funded it. I can't remember.
Or maybe even helped to mass produce it or something.
Yeah, and then they had to teach Ultron violence, which was... Oh, that was brilliant.
Oh, yeah, I love that stuff. But no, I like that Ultron is created by Hank Pym just because...
of the character things.
That Ultron recognized that Hank Pym is a villain deep down inside, and that's kind of their relationship. The way Tony Stark is not that way.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just trying... I don't think there's much else, and I'm going to kick myself, because, like I did with the DC video, because I'm like, how the fuck did we not talk about Aquaman and Death of Superman? The shit!
Yeah, I know, you're right.
So I know I'm going to kick myself after we're done with this video, but that's okay.
To be fair, we are boiling down 60, 70 years worth of comic book history to about an hour, so it happens. What can you do?
Alright, everyone, thank you, though, for listening. This was fun to see.
Yeah, I enjoyed this.
Yeah, this was a great idea for a video. It's just such a random thing, too. I like this.
Yeah, I agree. This is a lot of fun. We should do... I mean, there's not another universe we could talk about, but the idea of fan canons is fun to talk about.
Yeah, totally. Alright, everyone, so thank you for listening. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Politician.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.